Hey everyone, Pastor Tim here, and welcome to another worship weekend at Community of Grace. We're glad to have you joining us on Facebook and on YouTube. And if you want to take a moment just to say hi to us, please do. Tell us where you're watching from. And as you do that, I've got a question for you. What do a mighty fortress, and yeah, that's what this is, a mighty fortress, a phone, and October the 31st have in common? One word: reboot. And today we're going to look at an invitation that God has for you on this historic weekend as we celebrate the Reformation. God has an invitation for you to step into a God moment as we celebrate together the Great Grace Reboot. Looking forward to sharing with you the story and invitation that God has for you today. We worship together today in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Back in late November of 2004, I woke up and I heard what I've often described as God's whisper. Now, I didn't hear an audible voice. I didn't have a heavenly vision. Well, let me say this. I always wake up next to a heavenly vision. But I didn't see a light come down from heaven at that moment. I didn't really actually hear anything, but I had a sense deep in my gut that God was speaking. And what I sensed God was saying was that he wanted me to start a new church. Now, at that time, I was the pastor of Community Church of Joy in Glendale, Arizona. I started there when I was a student pastor in 1982 for 1 year, 1982 to 1983, and then I came back in March of 1984 as the associate pastor. So I had been there for over 22 years at that point. Joy was a large Lutheran megachurch. It had a multi-acre campus. It was a creative, dynamic congregation, and I loved every minute of it. I had a chance to work with a great staff of people. I had a chance to work with a congregation that was passionately committed to doing whatever it takes to build a church for people who don't go to church. And over the course of the years, we became what's called a teaching congregation. So that meant that we had pastors and lay people coming from really all around the world to learn some of the things that we had been learning at Joy. And so it was just a great environment. And I often told people that I was born for that church, that it was the church that I always dreamed of being a part of. And Jan and I were convinced that we would be there for my entire ministry. So in the summer and then the fall of 2004, Community Church of Joy was going through a very significant transition. And the pastors were asked to spend some time in prayer asking the question, God, do you still want me here? And I walked out of that meeting and I thought, I don't even need to pray about it. We know we're staying. The transition had opened up some new opportunities for me as a pastor. I was re-engaged. I was re-excited. We loved Joy. We had no reason to leave. And that's why that morning in November of 2004 was so surprising, because it blindsided me. It came out of the blue. I wasn't looking to leave. And yet when I had that sense in my gut that God was saying start a new church, I had a visceral response of excitement. And so guys, I got up and did what most husbands should do when they're making big decisions. I went and I talked to my wife and I said, here's what I'm sensing. And without batting an eye, she said, yes, I think that's right. And so 4 months later, a group of us from Community Church of Joy, blessed by Community Church of Joy, they planted us, they sent us out. A group of us held our very first worship service of Community of Grace Lutheran Church. We were meeting at Zuni Hills. It was March 27th, 2005, Easter Sunday morning. And when we started the church, we didn't really have a master plan. We didn't have these goals, measurable goals, strategic goals that we would look at over the course of 4 or 5 years to measure how we were doing. We were doing something rather counterintuitive. Rather than saying, God, this is the kind of church we're going to build, we asked this question: Jesus, where do you want us to go? And so when we started the church, we started with 2 things. First of all, that prayer: Jesus, we simply want to go where you want us to go. And secondly, we started with a committed group of people. People who rolled up their sleeves, people who committed their lives, their prayers, their financial resources, their time to building a church that would show the community what God's bold, audacious, lavish grace actually looks like. And so it was quite an adventure. And many times we just felt like we were flying by the seat of our pants. But we knew that we were stepping into a big God moment, and Jesus was not only going to call us into that moment, he was not only going to lead us through that moment, but he was going to be with us as he brought to reality Community of Grace Lutheran Church. And so for the first 15 years, it was a whirlwind of events. We grew, and we grew quite rapidly. We were given 9.5 acres of land, free and clear. We built a campus, a multi-million-dollar campus in the middle of the Great Recession. And because we were growing, because we had the asset now of a campus, we were able to expand our mission and ministry to the community. And so we offered Vacation Bible School and children's musical theater camps. We had Disney shows. We did Christmas shows, Easter egg hunts. Of course, we had all of our big services like Christmas and Easter. and many other different events to impact the community around us, to say, we're here for you. This is what a community of grace looks like. We were also able to expand the things that we did with each other. And so we added in Bible studies, and we added in children's ministries, and we added in men's ministry and women's ministry, and all the different opportunities we had for seniors. And we were also able to do missions. And so we started our work with Lake Pleasant Mobile Home Park Estates, and then we worked right from the beginning with our friends in Rwanda. And they were such a gift to us. And because we built this building, we've been able to pack over 1 million meals so far for Feed My Starving Children. So it's been quite an adventure as we've been living out that prayer, Jesus, we want to go where you want us to go, as we have been people who've rolled up our sleeves and said, Jesus, we're in. We're ready to go. Lead us where you want us to go. And we've been busy for, up to that point, 15 years, building a community that shows the neighborhood, that shows the world what grace looks like. But then, about 3 weeks before our 15th anniversary in 2020, COVID hit. And we had to shut down everything. And in a day, we had to pivot from a church that met on campus to a congregation that was meeting online and only online. And so we moved worship online. We moved Bible study online. We moved vacation Bible school online. We moved prayer time online. Everything went online. And we were doing things we had never done before. And in many ways, we had no idea what we were doing. But we sort of felt like this is going to last a couple weeks, maybe a month at most. And here we are now. We're coming up on our 17th anniversary in March, and probably will still be wrestling with COVID in some way, shape, or form. So you don't have to look back far to realize that COVID changed everything. And when it comes to what we're talking about today, it changed the Christian church. The statistics don't look good coming out of COVID, and I've shared some of these statistics with you before. 22% of Christian people, that's almost a quarter of Christian people, have dropped out of worship completely. That's a lot of people. Right now, the majority of congregations are seeing about 35 to 60% of worship attendance that they had prior to the pandemic, and that would be us. I heard one consultant say that from the moment you reopen your church, which for us was March of 2021, the moment you reopen your church to 2 years later, assuming you don't have to close down again, assuming everything goes well, you will still be running 20% fewer people in 2 years than you were before the pandemic. In 1980, 59% of all charitable dollars were given to religious organizations. In 2019, only 29% of all charitable dollars are given to religious institutions. So the statistics don't look good. It's going to be tough sailing for the church to be the church coming out of this pandemic. But there's one thing that still holds true and is probably true now more than ever. People are desperate for God's grace. These last few years in particular, we have been battered by COVID, by death, by political divisiveness, by social media outrage. We've had all of that stuff in our own lives. And people are at the breaking point. They are desperate to hear a word of love, a word of kindness, a word of grace, a word of meaning. They're looking for places where grace can set them free. And so even though there's word out there that the church is going to have a hard time surviving, I think life says otherwise. I think there's never been a better time to be the church because people are desperate for God's grace. And the church has this great gift to share with the world, that God loves them, that God's grace is lavish and radical. Now, 3 months after we started our congregation, we set a record of sorts. When you start a church in the Evangelical Lutheran Church of America, which we're a part, you automatically start on what they call mission status. You're a mission development. And what that means is that you're not financially stable yet. You can't stand on your own 2 feet, and so you need help, probably some financial support from the ELCA or from other congregations. And it usually takes somewhere between 2 to 5 years, maybe even longer, to move from mission status to being an organized, official congregation of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. We did it in 3 months. And the only reason why it took that long is because it took that long for the paperwork. Because the first day we started our church, we were financially self-sufficient. And so in June of 2005, we became an organized congregation of the Lutheran Church. And as a part of that, we invited people to sign a charter. The charter, and they signed it literally, they signed on the dotted line, the charter was the list of those who were members of the church, the first members, the founding members of Community of Grace Lutheran Church. And when we signed that charter, we were making a commitment to each other that we were going to be the church together, that we were going to roll up our sleeves, that we were going to commit our lives, our time, our finances, and our prayers to building a place where people could experience God's lavish grace. It was a big God moment for us. And here we are now, almost 17 years later, and we are in the midst of one of the biggest God moments in the history of our church, coming out of COVID, because everything's changed. And the way that we do church is going to have to change. But here's the good news. The God who doesn't change knows how to get us through change. And this is a God moment where God wants to reboot us as Christian people and us as a congregation to position us to be one of many churches to show the world what grace looks like as we come out of these very, very difficult days. So this is a big God moment. In fact, this is a time, I think, for a new charter. For us to roll up our sleeves and say, in a sense, this is a reboot. This is a new beginning. And to sign on the dotted line and say, Jesus, I'm in. So with that in mind, what I'd like to do today is to invite you to join me and to join Jan in the Great Grace Reboot. And here's what I'm asking you to do. I'm asking you to sign on the dotted line, to say, we're in, I'm in, my family is in. And I'm inviting you to make these 4 commitments. And we've been talking about these a lot lately. To make a commitment, first of all, to gear up. And that's the commitment to worship and worship regularly, which is easier than it's ever been because we come to you online. You can watch worship anytime. And when we worship, we find that for ourselves, our identity is forged. We discover through worship who we are, whose we are, that we're God's children, we're God's sons, we're God's daughters. You are the forgiven one. And so worship gears us up for life because it gives us our identity. Secondly, I want to invite you to make a commitment to go. And that commitment is to serve either here at your church or to serve somehow in the community. And when we go, we become self-actualized. Now, some of you are thinking, Pastor Tim, when did you become a New Age guy? But here's what it means to be self-actualized. It means, as Christian people, when we go, that's when we discover the assets that God has given to us, the gifts and talents, the passions that God has given to us to make the world a more grace-filled place. It's only in going that we discover what those assets are. Thirdly, I want to invite you to give, to practice generosity, to support your congregation financially in all the work that we do together. Because it's through giving that we discover our purpose. We were created to give life away. We were created to give our finances away. We were created to support ministries with generosity. And then finally, I'm inviting you to grow, to develop a sense of curiosity when it comes to your faith. To read the Bible, to be a part of Bible studies, to be a part of groups where we talk about Jesus together, because it's when we grow that we discover our potential, that God's use of us is unlimited. So Diane has actually created a book for us. It's a new charter book. It says The Great Grace Reboot, and we're inviting you to sign that book. But because you're watching online, we're going to give you a way to do it online. If you hold the camera up on your phone to that QR code, it's going to take you to a form. I'm going to invite you to fill out that form, basically asking you your name and the names of the people who are in your family and your email address, and then you're going to send that to us, and we'll write that in the book for you. Or you can simply text the word Reboot to 623-295-2484. 623-295-2484. Text the word Reboot. You'll get that same form. You just fill it out quickly. You send it to us, and we'll put you in the book. And by filling out that form, by going in the book, you're saying, yep, I'm in. I know God's doing something new in my life. God's doing something new in my church. I want to be a part of it. We're going to gear up. We're going to go. We're going to give. We're going to grow. Pastor Tim, Community of Grace, we're in. And I hope you'll join us for this great Grace Reboot. 500 some years ago, the Christian church was lost. It had lost its way. It was lost in power. It was lost in a fear-based view of God. It was lost in a works-righteous way of receiving forgiveness. The church was lost. And yet 504 years ago, God found the church through the grace of Jesus. And using Martin Luther as the catalyst, God rebooted the Christian church, and the Protestant Reformation changed the course of history. We're in a similar time right now, where many people feel lost, where many churches feel lost. And I've shared with leadership here that this is the first time in ministry where I really feel adrift, because the world has changed so dramatically. And yet what I do know is that Jesus always finds us. And that Jesus is finding us right now, calling us into this big grace moment, a moment where God is going to reboot our lives and reboot this church. We're going to do some things that look the same, but we're going to do a lot of things in the next months and years to come that are going to be different. They have to be different because the world has changed. So here's my question for you today. Are you in? Are you ready to go bold and live grace? Let's pray together. Heavenly Father, I thank you for Community of Grace. I thank you for all the people who've been a part of this congregation over the last almost 17 years. And in this historic moment, God, in this God moment, give us the courage to always pray, Jesus, we simply want to go where you want to lead us. And may we be the answer to that prayer as people who roll up our sleeves. We gear up, we go, we give, and we grow. We go bold and we live grace. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Now, we're going to have that available for you throughout the month of November. So if you don't get at it today, I'm going to send an email out this week. And then through the month of November, we're going to give people a chance to be a part of this new group of charter members coming out of COVID. So we're going to be celebrating communion here in just a few moments. If you haven't had a chance to get your communion stuff, turn up the volume a little bit, or bring your phone or computer with you, and you can get your crackers and your bread and your wine for communion. But before we do that, I want to say once again how glad we are to have you with us for our worship service today. And this is a special service for us. And if you're visiting for the first time, you got a chance to hear a little bit about our heart. And maybe God is saying to you, yeah, this is the church family for you. And even if it's not, and you just watched us today, we want to say thank you. So if you text the word new to 623-295-2484, 623-295-2484, text the word new to that number, we'll send you a card to Starbucks. Free and clear, just our way of saying thanks. If you text the word prayer to that number, we will pray for you. And if you text the word events to that number, we'll send you a link to some of the things that are coming up. It's Reformation weekend, it's Halloween weekend, and that means on November 1st, we start the journey to Christmas. At least some of us do. And so we've got a lot of stuff coming up for Christmas too we want you to be aware of. So text the word events to that number. Now, we talked about how important it is to support our church family because of the great mission that we keep doing over and over again. And as we get ready now for November, we are gearing up to support our friends over at Lake Pleasant Mobile Home Park Estates, and we're going to help them out with some of their Thanksgiving meals. And that's happening because of you and your generosity. And so thank you for that. And as we move into this new day, this God moment, it's going to take people of great faith who go bold in their giving. And I know that you want to do that for the sake of God's grace. So if you hold up again your camera, if you'd like to do that on your phone to that QR code, that's a way that you can give. You can also text the amount you'd like to give to 623-295-2484, 623-295-2484. And when you text that gift, it goes right into the mission and ministry of Community of Grace Lutheran Church as we together build a community that shows the world what grace looks like. So we're going to have communion in just a moment. Before we do that, though, we have a song for you. It is Martin Luther's #1 top hit, A Mighty Fortress Is Our God, done with a contemporary twist.
A mighty fortress is our God, a bulwark never failing, our helper he amid the flood, a mortal is prevailing. Still our ancient foe does seek to work us woe. His craft and power are great, and armed with cruel hate. On earth is not his equal. Did we in our own strength confide our striving would be lose? Would not the right man on our side, the man of God's own choose? Who I may be, as Jesus it is He, the Lord of hosts His name, from age to age the same, and He must win the battle. For God has willed His truth to triumph through. And though this world with devils filled should threaten to undo us, not fear, for God hath willed His truth to triumph through us. Whoa.
They're not quite sure when Martin Luther actually wrote that song, but they do believe that probably it was written sometime after a plague hit Germany, and it was taking the lives of hundreds and thousands of people. So it's a fitting song in these days of COVID to hear that God is a mighty fortress, a bulwark, a wall of defense that we can always count on. And so we're going to experience that grace together today. We do that through communion. We remember how on the night in which he was betrayed, our Lord Jesus took bread, he gave thanks, he broke it, he gave it to his disciples and said, "Take and eat. This is my body broken for you. Eat this for the remembrance of me." After supper, he took the cup and gave thanks and gave it for all to drink and said, "This is my blood. It's been poured out for you and for all people for the forgiveness of sins. Drink this for the remembrance of me." Let's pray together the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. So as you eat the wafer, as you eat the piece of bread, this is the body of Christ given for you. And this is the blood of Christ shed for you. And now may the body and blood of our Lord Jesus Christ strengthen and preserve you unto everlasting life. Peace be with you. Amen. It's been good to worship with you today. And before we head on out, a couple things we'd like you to know about. Next weekend, we're going to pick up our series again on Go Bold, Live Grace. We're going to talk about how to track your treasure and some great things that Jesus has to say about how to enjoy the gifts that we have. We will be coming to you, as always, Saturday night, 5 o'clock on Facebook and YouTube, and then we're available on demand after that. We do have in-house worship at 9 and 10:30. And in between those two services, we have something for the kids. We have the Discovery Club, kindergarten through 5th grade. The youth center is open at that time for those 30 minutes, and something to do in the lobby as well for adults. And then the youth meet on Sundays at 11:45. We usually have a meal right after the second service, and then the youth meet, middle school meets, high school meets 11:45 to 1:15. And there's no Cardinals game tomorrow, so come on out and worship with us if you'd like. Tomorrow night, Sunday night, Halloween night, we're going to be doing something here. So if you'd like to come on out and join us for that, bring your kids or your grandkids. We've got some games. We'll do some trunk or treat. We're going to be going from 5 to 7 o'clock. It's also a chance for us to impact the neighbors behind us. So if you'd like to come on out and bring your kids for some quick treats, trunk or treat, come early and then trick or treat at your neighborhood or trick or treat your neighborhood and come on over here. We'd love to have you be a part of that. That's our fall festival coming up on Halloween. We're going to be doing a newcomer orientation. We haven't done one of these for a couple years. And so we're going to do a newcomer orientation November 21st at 11:30 a.m. That'll be both Zoom and it will be in-house. And so if you're interested in that, you can send information or send an email to info@boldrecklessgrace.org, info@boldrecklessgrace.org for more information about that. And then finally, just a reminder that coming up in 2 weeks from today, on November 13th at 2 o'clock Mountain Standard Time, we're going to be doing a special tribute to our friend B.J. Thomas. Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head, Hooked on a Feeling, Rock and Roll Lullaby. He loved this church. He loved you. And we have the chance to do a tribute to him. We'll have some videos of some of his friends, a couple live interviews here. If you'd like to join us in-house, tickets are just $15, and every penny of that goes to a food bank, St. John's Food Bank. And the reason we're asking that is just to be able to give a gift in BJ's name. So if you want to come in-house, you can join us, or you can watch us online, boldrecklessgrace.org/BJ Thomas, boldrecklessgrace.org/BJ Thomas. And so now as you go, may our loving Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face smile upon you and be gracious to you. And may the Lord always turn his face towards you and give you peace. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Go bold and live grace.